So Blagoy Ivanov versus Augusto Sakai took place in the co-main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas Woodley versus Burns, and trust me, I'm going to get to the moment in the fight that you all click this video to hear me talk about. I just want to talk about the fight first before I get to that big moment where the fence was grabbed by Augusto Sakai, because there was a fight that happened beforehand that still needs some recognition, and I know that once I get to talking about the fence grabbing, that's all I'm going to ramble about for the rest of the video until I end it. So let's get the fight out of the way first. I will get to that big moment. I scored it for Augusto Sakai. We're going to talk about that moment in a second. Other than that moment, aside for a second, which I know I'm going to talk about very soon, I thought Augusto Sakai was doing really well in the fight. He was outlanding Blagoy Ivanov, and this is a guy in Blagoy Ivanov who, by the way, is tough as nails. I don't know what's going to put Blagoy Ivanov down in a fight. I don't think I've ever seen him rocked too badly. He's taken haymakers off of Derek Lewis, lived to tell the tale. He's taken a stab to the heart, which is a guaranteed kill in any other world, but he survives that one as well. I feel like Blagoy Ivanov, although he lost this fight, people who require bodyguards around the world are going to be licking their lips at Blagoy Ivanov, because once his fighting career is over, he's going to have a very successful career defending the White House. I feel like Donald Trump needs to pay attention to Blagoy Ivanov, because that man seems to be unkillable. I don't know what it's going to take, but let's talk about the fight in general before we get to the big moment that everyone's talking about. Augusto Sakai looked really good. The first round was close. I gave it to Blagoy Ivanov. At first, I thought this could go either way. It was a really close round, but I remembered the body shots that Ivanov was landed against Sakai. He was ripping some decent shots to the body. In the second round, Ivanov was clearly slowing down. Obviously, Augusto Sakai was reversing some good takedowns in the second, reversing some good takedowns in the first as well. But Blagoy Ivanov was doing really good in the first round. In the second round, it really started to slow down, and you could just tell that the tide of the fight was beginning to change. Even still, I saw the numbers on the screen. It said 30 for 30 in round 2. I immediately knew that they were wrong. And I'm looking at the numbers now. It says 34 to 30. For Augusto Sakai, and I even think those ones are wrong, so I'm going to check these stats tomorrow, and they're probably going to have gone up for Augusto Sakai again. He was clearly outlanding Blagoy Ivanov in the second round, landing more effective shots as well. Blagoy Ivanov kept rushing forward with combos, and Sakai would just sort of fade back with a check hook and kept catching Ivanov coming in flush. Like, this wasn't the best co-main event in the world. A lot of people said this fight was quite boring. I disagree with this fight being called boring. I thought it was quite interesting, because Blagoy Ivanov is a guy, again, who went 5 rounds with JDS. Like, he's had some great fights with Derek Lewis, and that fight could have gone either way as well. I'm sure we'll all agree that was a real split decision. Even still, Augusto Sakai looked good. He won the second round on strikes. Even though Blagoy Ivanov got a takedown at the end, I thought he needed to be a little bit more urgent in terms of damage if he was going to win the round. And then even then, he did no damage on top, and Augusto Sakai got back up before the round was over, which I thought won him the round. Augusto Sakai won the second round. Blagoy Ivanov won the first round, 1-1. Then the third round, Sakai is just completely outclassing Ivanov. Ivanov gets in the clinch, gets the body lock. Augusto Sakai gets a little bit lazy against the cage, which he was doing so well in before, because he was winning every clinch exchange in the fight before then. Blagoy Ivanov goes for a hip toss, and Augusto Sakai clearly grabs the cage. And it really did hinder him from being taken down. This wasn't just a bit of a cage grab where it sort of got his balance back together and there was no real threat of a takedown anyway. He just kind of kept himself sturdy and stuff like that. This was a real fence grab that really altered the outcome of this fight, because Blagoy Ivanov slams him to the ground there, gets in north-south. Blagoy Ivanov is a huge guy to have on top of you. Who knows if Sakai has the energy to get back up in that third round. It was a real close fight until then. I'm spitting everywhere. I'm emotional about this. Let's talk about that moment where he grabbed the fucking cage, because it needs to be brought up. A point deduction to me might be a little bit far, but giving Ivanov a position of control is definitely fair game. A point deduction for me is a huge deal. Taking a point away from someone, we know how hard it is to get 10-8 rounds. It's not like winning a close round gets you 10-9 and controlling a round gets you 10-8 and then a dominant round gets you 10-7. It's 10-9 or 10-8, and 10-8s are pretty damn hard to get. Even still, a point deduction is a big deal for me. Looking at the takedown, he did stop himself from being taken down. However, he was still taken down. I understand that, but he did stop himself. He stopped the momentum and the power of the takedown. If you watch the takedown again, if Augusto Sakai had landed on the floor on his back, I may have maybe considered a point deduction because that would have been Blagoy Ivanov inside control on top of him. Blatant cheat by Sakai. But what we did see was this. He did get taken down. The momentum of it was shifted, but he landed on his front, which means that Blagoy Ivanov only would have ended up in north-south, which isn't much of a favourable position, although it is still a favourable position. I think what the referee should have done in that moment, all referees should have some kind of grappling knowledge, in my opinion. They should know what kind of effect that grab of the cage had on the takedown that Blagoy Ivanov was going for. I feel as though the referee should have gave Ivanov the positional dominance. I'm not on board to say that Augusto Sakai should have had a point taken away. This wasn't something where, if not for that, Sakai would have lost the fight. That's not the case here. It limited the effectiveness of the takedown. The takedown still happened, and Ivanov couldn't get control anyway. If he did get control, give him that control. Act as though he would have done the perfect takedown in the situation, but even in the perfect takedown, Ivanov was a little bit high up for a hip toss. He had a bit of a headlock going for a hip toss, which is always going to end in north-south. If you have a body lock on a hip toss, you can then look to maybe get into side control or half guard or end up in a much better position. If it was one of those hip tosses, I maybe would have taken a point away from Augusto Sakai. I'm all in favour of taking one away anyway. I'm not in any way defending Augusto Sakai here. He could have a point taken away, and I wouldn't really care. However, he would have ended up in north-south, at least as the referee. The one thing that really annoys me is when they call a foul and they do nothing about it. You can't just say, hey, stop doing that, this is a warning, because that has affected the outcome of the fight. It really has affected the outcome of the fight. And the referee should have seen that and said, hey, you know what I'm going to do? Both of you back up against the cage. Ivanov's in north-south on top of you. That's what would have happened if the takedown was full force. I am not sure about taking a whole point away from Augusto Sakai from that, because the grabbing the cage thing is always kind of difficult, because it's almost impossible not to. Like, they've made cage for a reason. They could have made it a ring if they wanted to. They've made a cage so that it's a bit different. But when there's a cage next to you and you're being taken down, if your instinct isn't to grab the cage, you kind of want to lose. Like, it's one of those weird areas in MMA. He definitely shouldn't have done it. I think that Blagoy Ivanov should have been given some positional control. But even still in the third round, Augusto Sakai was looking real good. I don't want this to take away from the victory of Sakai, but it really does sour my taste buds in terms of watching Augusto Sakai move forward in his career, because, you know, who knows what would have happened if that takedown had occurred. Not enough for me to guarantee that Ivanov would have won the round. If it was one of those situations where, let's say, Augusto Sakai was fading heavily, the momentum of the fight was shifting, Ivanov would have hip tossed him and he ended up on his back, but he grabbed the cage and Ivanov wasn't able to follow up and get on top of him, that's where you can take away a point. I feel like with cage grabs, it's such a natural reaction. Just give the guy the positional dominance. Don't look to take away a point. Because what could happen is, you're taking away a point because you think if Blagoy Ivanov was on top, he would have won that round. And you've taken it away from him. So that's why you take away a point. You don't take away a point and then stand them both up in the middle of the octagon. You give them the positional control. I feel as though Ivanov should have been given north-south, but let's not even talk about that. Let's talk about what's happening next. Blagoy Ivanov should be somewhat rewarded. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing. Blagoy Ivanov is a ranked opponent right now in the heavyweight division. He has history of Junior Dos Santos. They went 5 rounds. Junior Dos Santos is looking for an opponent in the heavyweight division. He's coming off a loss as well. Blagoy Ivanov versus Junior Dos Santos sounds like an amazing idea to me. That way, at least the Blagoy Ivanov fans that think that he maybe got robbed because of that cage grab still get their own way, and we can have a shuffle up of the division. JDS versus Blagoy Ivanov in a rematch sounds good to me. They went 5 rounds. It was a good fight. It wasn't a good fight, but it was competitive. Let's make that one happen. Then, Augusto Sakai versus the winner of Cyril Gane versus his opponent, whose name is Shamil Abdurakhimov. Fucking got it. Let's go. Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Cyril Gane. The winner of that fight should be looking to take on Augusto Sakai next. I feel like that's a great matchup for the pair of them. It will give Augusto Sakai a chance to improve even more as a young heavyweight that he is. Blagoy Ivanov, give him the credit he deserves. That could have gone his way at the end. I feel like rewarding him the same way I do with Spike Carlyle, by rewarding him by moving him up the rankings. Give him an opportunity against JDS. That way the whole division's going to get shuffled up anyway, and we could maybe start getting rid of some of these old heavyweights that just won't go away. Give Blagoy Ivanov JDS. Give Augusto Sakai the winner of Cyril Gane versus his opponent that he's facing next, who is named Shamil Abdurakhimov. And that'll be a great outcome. That's what I feel about the decision. It was a great fight. It was very technical. Augusto Sakai did some things that no one could do to Blagoy Ivanov. I mean, Blagoy Ivanov is a guy with some great power. Landed on Augusto Sakai a few times. Never connected with real power enough to KO him, showing that Augusto Sakai has a great chin. He's got great footwork. He's got great kicks. He was chewing up the lead leg of Blagoy Ivanov the entire time. Body kicks on Blagoy Ivanov do work. I know a lot of people like to believe in the myth that fat guys can't get finished to the body. They can, because Blagoy Ivanov was visually gassing in that second round because of all those body kicks that Augusto Sakai was landing. I'm okay with it. I wish that they would have given Ivanov the positional dominance. I'm kind of okay with them not taking a point. Hopefully I haven't angered the entire MMA community here. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But in the case that I have angered you all, and you're all disliking the video right now, telling me that I'm an idiot, give Blagoy Ivanov JDS in a rematch. They're both coming off losses. He gets a jump up the rankings for free, even though he lost. That's a good thing. Give Augusto Sakai Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Cyril Gane winner. Good as well. I think I've maybe saved myself from a herd of dislikes. Who knows? Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. I'll see you later. Yeah.